Hello. Morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Morning, you're fine.
Okay. And it looks like we've got 10:15. We'll go ahead and get started. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and listen to the discussion, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings held twice monthly. We have 4 items on our agenda. We'll go ahead and start with the county manager update and Don Boone.
Thank you, Chair Quayle, members of the board. I thought I'd have Justin Gibbs join us for my update so he can talk a little bit about what's been going on the last several days. Obviously, a number of folks, including law enforcement, public works, emergency management, fire, have all been working diligently during this atmospheric river. So maybe, Justin, you could give a brief overview of what you've been working on and the collaboration that's been going on with the other agencies.
Yes, sir. Chair, Commissioners, County Manager, thank you so much for the opportunity to appear today to talk about the active pattern of weather that we've had, rain and flooding that will continue through today. So as part of my briefing, we just received the most recent update from the National Weather Service. So I'll talk about the current forecast and then significant events and updates that occurred yesterday, and then some brief areas for improvement. So currently, Clatsop County is still under a flood watch effective through 4 p.m. today, and an advisory that's effective through 1 a.m. tomorrow. As far as key points from the briefing, moderate rain today will cause continued increased chances of flooding, hazardous seas across waters today, and then there'll be periods of light to moderate rain that will continue Thursday with brief improvement on Friday and widespread rain returning on Saturday. With regard to the accumulations, the highest rainfall accumulations over Wednesday and Thursday will be across southern portions of the county, bordering Tillamook County, with an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain forecast through 4 a.m. on Friday. Changes from the previous briefing, they did increase flooding to a moderate risk for the coastal range, but outside of the coast range, minor impacts forecast for today for coastal areas and coastal waters with flooding, sneaker waves, and hazardous seas. So that concludes a current overview of the forecast. As far as significant events, we did have an active period yesterday, starting yesterday morning. National Weather Service for this event, National Weather Service briefings began on 11/20/29. We amplified those briefings to cooperators and worked with our public affairs team on press releases and social media updates. We've been in constant contact with the Department of Transportation over this event, with them providing updates by text message throughout the day yesterday and this morning. Probably most of that communication was regarding Highway 101. I can favorably report that traffic could pass through the impacted area this morning. And then we also had some ORS, the Oregon Emergency Response System, received some incident reports from Clatsop County yesterday, particularly from the Arch Cape sewer plant regarding overflow. Once that report was received, we were in communication with the plant operator to ascertain if any supports were needed. That did generate some collaboration with the city of Cannon Beach. There was a concern about diesel storage on the site and having enough to sustain themselves through continued power outages. So we did reach out to the city of Cannon Beach. I knew the emergency manager there, had strong contacts in the community. He actually offered, they had a fuel wagon that they could utilize to support the treatment facility, because given the impacts to the roadways, there was some concern about them being able to secure those resources. So work closely with Rick Hudson and Cannon Beach, and then provided updates to other cooperators in the area as well. And then there was an overflow situation at Seaside Sewer as well. I spoke with them this morning, and they are still in overflow and starting to conduct testing in the waterways to see what the impacts are. Arch Cape, as far as the last report I received from Arch Cape, they were also still in overflow, but that situation was improving. They were seeing improvements. As far as areas for improvement going forward with future incidents, one of our primary roles is to create a shared situational picture. So I think working with local cooperators to ensure that we're receiving situation reports. And then with ORS, the only way we were notified about the incident in Arch Cape was through our regional coordinator with Oregon Emergency Management. I'm going to make a recommendation, since ORS will be moving to emergency management within their purview, that there is a system in place to push out notifications if there is an incident reported in a county. And then river gauges, there is a lack of river gauges in Clatsop County, with the only ones being along the Columbia River. So I think as far as monitoring impacts from weather events like this, it would be helpful to have additional gauges in the county. With that, that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Gibbs. I really appreciate the communication, and certainly like the fact that you're looking at other troubleshooting measures to improve the system for next time. Again, significant flooding in South County. I know that Highway 101 being closed was a big disruption to many, but glad that that's reopened, and I really appreciate the report. Does anyone have any questions for Director Gibbs? Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, sir. I echo your praise for our emergency manager, because it's really a very difficult situation. I'm not able to be at my home now because of the flooding in Seaside, but also because of the intermittent electricity and internet connectivity. So if there's a way to include the utilities in your purview, so that I don't know if that's reasonable or logical, but I just offer it as someone who's impacted by this. Deeply grateful for this. In my conversations with local ODOT, it looks as though what they're anticipating is a reconvening of the, I would call it a work group from 10 to 12 years ago, when they did they plucked the low-hanging fruit, is the phrase I heard used, about mitigating the Seaside flooding. I don't know what will happen as a result of that, but I anticipate that ODOT and all their partners, and the county is large in that, will be talking more about what to do, what can be done to mitigate future episodes like this, because we can anticipate that they will recur. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Any other comments, questions at this time? County Manager?
Chair Quayle, members of the board, I just want to also recognize the Coast Guard. They were out yesterday doing water rescues, and they did actually some up in my neck of the woods, and it's just an amazing resource, and we're very blessed to have them here helping us. So just want to recognize them.
It's a great point, County Manager. We are very fortunate to have the Coast Guard in our community. And I like all your recommendations, Director Gibbs. I think those are good ones for improving the system in the future. Any other comments,
Thank you.
questions? Anything else, County Manager? Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to our next item, which are appointments to the Fair Board. And I know we have our Fairground Manager, Kyle Sharpstein, with us, so I'll turn it over to Kyle.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. We had 2 members' terms that are coming to an end. So we solicited for interested community members to be on the board. Current members are Callie Linder, Brittany Bodway Israel, Mallory Lighthizer. Their terms end in 2025. Matt Bellingham and Sarah Finn are current members, and theirs are the terms that are ending now. And then Lisa Morley and Virginia Hall have also submitted an application. Matt and Sarah have also reapplied to stay on the board. And yeah, the applications are all attached here in the packet for you guys to review.
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. I see that the applications are in the packet. And does anyone have any questions? Commissioner Webb.
Yes, thank you. I noticed that the commissioner districts represented are wrong for 2 of the 4 applicants. Matt Bellingham is actually in District 4, and Lisa Morley is in District 3.
Oh.
Those are changes when we did the redistricting after the 2020 census. And I don't know whether that I always prefer when we do these kinds of appointments to have presented the entire board, the existing members of the board, where they live, etc. And I'm would always prefer that we have representation from all over the county when we have members. I don't know where the existing members live, but it's just for future reference. I think it's always helpful for us to take a look at the entire membership and when people's times are up. So that's just a matter of, I think it's always difficult when people want to re-up to deny them that. So it's always a kind of a tough thing. And so I think it makes it, and yet at the same time, you want people on the board who are experienced. So I think this is a real tough call today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. I really appreciate you noticing the changes in the districts due to redistricting. So that's a good catch. And then certainly maybe when we bring this back to the regular meeting, we can have all of the Fair Board members listed. Commissioner Banks?
Yeah, so just taking a look at the landscape as it's occurring right now, and recognizing that we have just hired a new fairgrounds manager, and the board and the manager and our new staff are all creating relationships right now. And by doing so, I'm really hesitant to upset the apple cart. I feel like they are just now starting to really gel and identify everyone's roles and responsibilities. And they're working very well together. And when a group is working very well together, I really struggle with trying to change it, especially since both of the board members want to re-up. And so I would just encourage us to continue as status quo with the current board that is working. They're entering their strategic planning sessions. They are identifying flaws from the prior fair and already problem solving for the next year. And frankly, our fairgrounds is quite busy right now, and they've done a great job with marketing and bringing in new activities. So I guess I just encourage us to allow them to continue moving forward in the very productive way that they have been. it's always difficult to bring somebody up to date. And they even mentioned, increasing their volunteer engagement. And so maybe these applicants that have shown interest can serve on in a different manner, but also be serving the fairgrounds and the fair board by being a volunteer, because they do need a lot of assistance for the things that they want to get accomplished. And I know that Kyle could probably speak to that a little bit more than I could at this moment.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Banks. Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, the districting, I just put what they put on their application, so I can check those in the future and see if their addresses line up with the right districts. People must think that they're in a different district than they are. But yeah, I think kind of the sense, we had a fair board meeting last night, and kind of the sense I got from them is that they were happy with their team and they'd like to be able to stick together and continue to work through. There's been turmoil with the fair board over the last, I don't know, period before I came aboard. And it seems like a lot of that may be getting worked out. And so, the fact that they're able to work together is something that we can continue to build on. And yeah, I think depending on who you all select, whoever's not selected, we would definitely be leaning on them heavy to try to get them to help participate in putting on the fair, because we need a lot of volunteerism to make the fair happen. We've got a request out there right now to get people to sign up for some of our planning subcommittees for sponsorships and vendors and parking, accessibility, all those kinds of things. So maybe they have some skills that would really fit into one of those parts of what we have going on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Manager Sharpstein. Really appreciate your insight and your comments. I see Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. I would echo the comments made by Commissioner Bangs and Mr. Saperstein, because if a team is working, yes, continue and strengthen it. If you've got plans on how to use additional qualified volunteers, which it appears that you have, absolutely. I understand that it's lovely to have people from all over the county, but it's not broken. Let's tune it up and keep it going. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Any other comments? Yeah, appreciate the input. Really appreciate the job you're doing out there at the fairgrounds, Kyle. And I happen to agree with the comments that have made. I think it's a strong team and been working well. So we'll be having this on our regular agenda. And is this going to come back next week?
It will be in January.
In January.
Yeah,
okay.
We're past the deadline to get that on that agenda.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Kyle. All right. We'll move on to our next item, which is the formal categorization of certain county-owned properties pursuant to property management policies. That's on page 11 of our agenda. And we have our county assessor, Suzanne Johnson, with us. Suzanne.
Good morning, Chair Quila and members of the board. It's been a while since I've presented in front of you. What you have before you are properties that we've accumulated over the last 2 years from property tax foreclosure. And it's time to get them back on the tax roll. That also makes me feel good in my other job. So back in August, the County Property Categorization Committee met and we discussed all 13 properties and made recommendations. And you have all of those in front of you now. 11 are recommended for auction and 2 are recommended for future county use. And that's to look at them and figure out if they're suitable for some of the housing needs that we have facing us. So that's simple and sweet. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about specific properties or what the process is going forward. We will come to you in the January 10th meeting to ask for you to formally categorize the properties. And then I'll come back yet again to set up the sale date and get that going. So hopefully in the next couple months, we'll get this all accomplished.
Yeah, thank you very much, Assessor Johnson. It has been a while, so it is good to see you. I
Thank
see
you.
we have a couple hands raised, Commissioner Thompson, then Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I saw that there are a couple of properties with contamination issues. I know that Colpack has been talking about brownfields money. Is it possible that any of that brownfields money could apply to help remediate those properties?
Well, one of them, and Monica can talk about the brownfield money, but one of them is the Fox property that we've talked to you about previously. It's a property that there was a man living on there with a bunch of squatters, and it was contaminated with human waste and also cars and that sort of thing. We had applied for a grant through the state, but I don't know really what happened with it. It was gung-ho. They were excited about it. And then we just lost touch with anyone. It was the person that was managing that grant wasn't going to be in the position any longer. And then we can't get a hold of anyone to ask what happened with that. So I'm assuming that it either fell apart or we're not eligible. And the other one, I believe, has cars on it as well. And I don't think that the contamination is as bad as the Fox property. So I think going forward will be good.
If you would like me to speak to the brownfield, okay. So the brownfield grant is specific to property that is eligible for redevelopment for housing or economic development purposes. And so we work with the property owner for them to do a site nomination form, and then the property owner would need to be interested in some sort of redevelopment. So it would be up to your board to determine if you would want to keep that property potentially for redevelopment, or what you would want to what you would want to do with it in that regard.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Well, so if staff comes to us with the next set of recommendations, could you also recommend to us if you think it advisable that the county proceed to apply for remediation money through the brownfields program? I'm okay with yes or no. I just want you to take a look at it and recommend to us so we can decide appropriately.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Webb.
Yes, thank you, Chair Coyla. I had a conversation with the county manager yesterday about this. I'm a little confused about the timing of these. Suzanne, you just mentioned that these were newly foreclosed properties, but several.
Sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, but go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
Over the last 2 years, foreclosure. So a foreclosure in 21, 22 and 22, 23.
Oh, okay, because there are some comments here that talk about negotiations going back several years. So I guess I'm a little bit confused. When you come to us, I guess I forgive my naivety about this, but I assume we have many more properties than these that we own, right? All these little crazy pie-shaped, crazy little pieces all over the county. And I'd love to know how many of those there are. I don't need necessarily a list, but I would love to know the larger context of our consideration with these. The committee that you mentioned that selects these out for us, do they, for instance, sit down with all of the county-owned properties and consider one by one which ones we should put up for option? for auction, excuse me, is that their task? Or do they just take the newest ones?
Okay, so I left out the part that in this categorization, what we are asking for is for you to categorize them. So there are a couple of properties, one that we have been going back and forth for a couple of years that is not newly foreclosed. It was a property that someone has asked to purchase. So sometimes we will have those, and all this now make sure these are all the properties that were remaining uncategorized. So all those little pie-shaped properties or all these little ones that we've accumulated have already been categorized into some category in past years. These are new ones that we foreclosed on, and then you're right, there are a couple that we would like to change the category. And I think I made a note on those saying that they were previously something else, or a note that said, I'm looking for the one specifically that we were asked to put up for auction. It's number 2304. And it was asked to be purchased years ago. And there was some discussion about holding it for future county use. So that's the category that it was placed in at the time. Now, it's one that I recommended to the categorization committee to put it up for auction. I can't see any reason why it shouldn't be auctioned. And then to answer your question also about the committee, these properties, I put them together, or in the past, Serpa did as the property manager. We put them together. These are the ones that are not categorized as yet, or need a new category in our opinion. So that's how it goes. Thank you for correcting me.
No,
Commissioner Webb.
it wasn't correcting you. I'm just confused myself. So
Okay.
how many individual properties does the county own? Do you have just a ballpark?
Oh boy, I could probably tell you pretty quickly. Just a second, let me look here. That's the beauty of having my computer in front of me. Let's see here. 521. But these you have to keep in mind that some of these are properties that the county is using for something else.
Oh,
So it's not just ones that are just sitting here doing nothing. Some of them are being used for other things.
oh, okay. Okay. I'd love sort of to see a 20,000 foot overview of what those are.
Okay.
But that's not a request. Okay. Thank you, Suzanne.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you for the question and clarification, Assessor Johnson. Do we have any other questions? County Manager.
Yeah, Chair Quayle, members of the board, I just want to point out that as part of our previous legislative agendas, we've tried to highlight one of the challenges. As you know, that the county receives foreclosure property in all kinds of different states, all different kinds of property configurations, all types of zoning, all types of previous uses. Some of those previous uses may contribute to cleanup costs on property, other violations on the property. One of the unique things that we have is out in the Fishhawk Lake area where there is an HOA. When there's a foreclosure, we receive that, and then right now we are required to pay the HOA fees. So we take taxpayer dollars to pay the HOA fees, and those HOA fees are very high in the Fishhawk Lake area because of the issues surrounding the dam and the fish. And so it's just unfortunate that public agency who receive these foreclosure properties, which again, these are not properties that we get to choose off of a list which one we want. We receive all that are eligible for foreclosure, and we deal with them in whatever state that they are. And I think we will continue to try to work this with the legislature because it is something that is not compatible when we receive a foreclosure property and then have to pay these large HOA fees. And when you think about a vacant piece of property, if it has a large HOA fee, the chances of us selling that are very low. And we have tried to sell these properties, and there hasn't been interest in them, and there's just a high hurdle. So the county, even though we desire to use the properties for public purpose, if they are such appropriate for, or we try to dispose of them, sometimes neither option is actually doable. And those are the ones that obviously are the most frustrating, because our goal is to put the properties back on the property rolls. Or to use them for a public purpose. So I just want to share that with you, that there's always complicated things with these foreclosures. Suzanne and her staff do an amazing job. And the committee is a broad swath of the county, from public works, surveyors, community development, assessment and taxation, and many others, public works. So yeah, it's never easy. Just wanted to share that little complexity.
Yeah, thank you, County Manager. And I agree, our team does a fantastic job. Suzanne does a great job. And there's certainly the scenario that you outlined is something that needs to be addressed. And but I'm glad we're getting or attempting to get these back on the tax rolls, because that's where they belong. Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. Thank you, Suzanne. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the Solid Waste Ordinance and Rules Amendment on recycling. And we have Anthony Pope, our county counsel, here, and I'll turn it over to Anthony.
Right. Thank you, Chair Quayla. Good morning, members of the board. Today, I'm hoping to have a discussion with you about a possible update to the county's solid waste ordinance and administrative rules regarding the curbside recycling requirements. And this is something I've been working with Monica in the county manager's office with quite extensively. So Monica, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in. Just kind of wanted to start with a quick background. Last year, your board passed ordinance number 2021-06, which established a requirement that solid waste collectors in the county must obtain a franchise from the county. And prior to this, that wasn't a requirement. Along with that ordinance, your board also passed the solid waste and recycling administrative rules. These rules included the provision that every resident in unincorporated Clatsop County would have to receive curbside recycling. And as the board is aware, for the most part, curbside recycling is not being offered at this time in the unincorporated parts of the county. So the last few months, we've been working with the haulers to finalize their franchise agreements. And one of the key pieces of finishing that up is coming up with the rates that they were going to charge. And one of the challenges that we have found is that if we start adding curbside recycling services to every customer within unincorporated parts of the county, it becomes very expensive and the fees start to get very high. And so we tried to come up with some solutions on how we were going to address that. One of the ideas was basically, it's mandatory. Everybody would have to pay for it. They could opt out if they wanted. But still, just looking at the logistics of it and having the haulers having to purchase new equipment, start new routes, and then travel to these some very isolated residents, it just doesn't really pencil out, other than a really big increase in the fees. And so the solution that we're proposing today is that we add definitions to the rules. We would add a definition for what we call rural residential customers. And then the second definition would be for suburban rural customers. And these two divisions, we would, as county staff, get together and with the haulers and try to determine if, where these areas are. The suburban rural customers are, although they live in the country, there's still a population density where it is economically feasible for the haulers to start the recycling curbside service immediately. For the rural residential customers, we might not be able to reach them curbside, but the plan would be to set up recycling depots throughout the county that they could, bring the recyclables to. just wanted to point out that it still would be the goal of staff and the haulers to eventually offer curbside recycling throughout the county. It was just kind of a build-up process where they would be able to slowly add routes and equipment. And hopefully we would eventually have a goal of reaching everybody. But by setting up these divisions, we kind of are giving opportunities to kind of start the process and then build up to it. And so want to know if the board had any questions, or Monica, is there anything that you'd like to add?
I'll just add one thing that was also discussed in regards to those rural residential customers that wouldn't have the curbside recycling immediately available. Similar to what is currently out in the Napa-Svensson area, there's a recycling depot. And so it would be the goal of the county and the haulers to have those recycling depots available, for example, out in the Jewel or LC Vine Maple area as well, or I think at the Jewel substation, is it the Jewel substation, Anthony?
While that's printing, let's.
Yeah, Jewel substation.
Okay, thank you, County Council. Thank you, Assistant County Manager. I see that Commissioner Thompson, then Commissioner Banks. So Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, sir. Well, I really appreciate the efforts to gradually work our way in. And I'm very sympathetic to the issues of how do we make it affordable for people, and a gradual approach seems like very sensible and rational way to go. So yeah, that makes sense to me. I wondered, I assume suburban rural is Arch Cape, Napa, Svensson. I wonder about rural residential, LC, Jewel Vine Maple, rural Seaside. Is Cove Beach considered rural or suburban in this taxonomy?
And no, like I said, I'm still learning the geography of the county. But my understanding, going down Highway 101, that would all be considered suburban rural. Was that correct, Monica?
Yeah, I believe so. Again, they already have sort of, because of the garbage services that are provided, so they do already have a sort of a definition developed of those suburban versus rural residential. And so so I do believe, based on the density along 101, that is considered suburban rural, but we will be receiving maps from the haulers in regards to what these geographic areas actually are.
Good, that makes good sense to me. Being a cynical person, I wonder about these depots and what's to keep, people from basically using them as garbage dumps.
So this has happened in the past. That was happening out at some depots that we had in Westport. And so one of the current depots is located at the substation in Napa-Svensson, the Public Works facility. And that is where the one out in the Jewel area would be located as well. So there is monitoring that is able to happen at those locations.
Commissioner Banks. Okay, Commissioner Toyoka.
Thank you. No, I just as I read this, I was looking at our previous, like the county properties. That is there an opportunity in this same process to use some of those unallocated county properties as depots? Because a lot of them have highway access, a lot of them are very accessible properties. Kind of kill two birds, one stone idea. Could put those properties that the people of the county own into good use and make manufacturing depots with those, because a lot of them do have that good frontage, good accessibility all throughout the county. That was it.
Thank you, Commissioner Toyoka. Any response from staff on that?
Chair Quaylen, members of the board. Yes, I think Commissioner Toyoka is right. What we would do anytime that we're citing anything is to look at really county-owned property first as one of the options, or other publicly owned property. And That's why the siting right now has been in conjunction with another county function. And so we would look at all the properties, and Commissioner Toyoka is right. And there's some frontage advantages and just locational advantages with some of those. So we will continually look at all of the properties that the county owns and use it for the highest, best use. And that's why, to go back to the categorization process, why we would look through the lens of, are any of these properties suitable for another public use? And that public use could be for a recycling depot. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, County Manager, and good suggestion. Commissioner Bangs, we got you back.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm on my phone and it's not being very helpful. So I think when I began poking this 3 years, 4 years ago, I don't know how many years ago, my main focus was accessibility, and our current depot station in my area that I live in is always full. And so I would like to have less burning and more accessibility to recycling, I think, is just my goal. I really cringe when anytime the word mandatory is used, because I don't want our constituents to feel like that there's something mandatory. And so as we're moving forward, I appreciate the direction that the staff is going and the thought process that they're using to try to alleviate the cost or the potential cost for those constituents that want to voluntarily recycle. I think that this is just, if we improve accessibility, just like we did in Warrenton with the green bag drop zones, that recycling will improve, and people will be less dependent on open burn. So fingers crossed. Thank you for all of your work. I know it's been a challenge, and I can see that it's going to continue to be a challenge, but more depot drops would be appreciated. And then hopefully we could look at more consistent pickup of those depot drops, so that those drops will always have space and availability and not be overfull to overflowing, especially around the holiday seasons when people use more cardboard at Christmas. It would be nice that we could just increase the or encourage the recycling franchise to increase the number of pickups when we have situations like, say, Christmas coming. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Bangs. Commissioner Thompson?
Well, thank you. I like Commissioner Bang's point. Here's what I'd wonder. Could we put language in this agreement that says they need to monitor, or have the haulers need to monitor the usage and expand it, either in terms of frequency of pickup or size of the recycling capacity? Because let's make it useful. I've lived with nasty garbage burns in my area, and it would be way better to have it recycled. And if we put the language in, then there's an obligation, an affirmative duty on their part to monitor and respond to customer usage.
So yeah, thank you, Commissioner. That is definitely something that we would be adding into the franchise agreements and making sure that they were keeping up on.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
I just wanted to interrupt. I have a hard out in 1 minute for math class, so I apologize.
I think you're going to be in luck, Commissioner Bangs. I don't think we have anything else on our agenda, and I think we're ready to wrap this up. So I really appreciate the efforts of County Council and staff on putting this together, certainly addressing an issue, and an incremental approach to solving it is the way to go. So thanks again. And we don't have any other items on our agenda, so we can go ahead and make this efficient meeting officially closed. Have a good rest of your day.